Can I ask you something honestly? How much time do you spend creating content every single week? Writing it, filming it, editing it, posting it, thinking about it, worrying about it? How much of that content is still working for you a month later? Because for most women, building a business online, the answer to that second part is barely any of it. And yet the advice they keep getting is to create more, post more, show up more consistently, be more visible. And so they push harder and they stay up later and they squeeze content creation into the gaps of an already full life. And they burn through their energy on something that disappears within 24 hours of being posted. There has to be a better way than this. And there is. It just looks completely different to what most people are doing. Here's what the content hamster wheel actually looks like from the inside, and I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. You create something, you post it, you watch the notifications for a bit, you feel vaguely disappointed, and then almost immediately you start thinking about what you need to create next. Because the feed keeps moving, and if you stop feeding it, you disappear. And so you keep going. You keep creating, not from a place of inspiration or genuine desire to help, but from a place of pressure, from the fear that if you slow down, the algorithm will forget you, your audience will forget you, and all of that effort will have been for nothing. That is an exhausting way to run a business. And more than that, it's an unsustainable way to run a business because it relies entirely on you showing up at full energy, consistently, indefinitely. And as we talked about in an earlier episode, you are a human being with a full life and a body that sometimes needs to rest. A content strategy that only works when you're running at full capacity is not a strategy. It's just a treadmill. So here is the distinction that I think is genuinely worth sitting with. Not all content is created equal. And the type of content most people default to, the daily story, the quick post, the reactive reel, is what I call disposable content. Yes, it serves a purpose in the moment, but it has a very short lifespan. Yesterday's post is already buried. Last week's story is entirely gone. But there's another type of content. Content that doesn't disappear when the feed moves on. Content that gets found weeks, months, even years after it was created. Content that keeps working long after you've moved on to the next thing. A podcast episode that someone discovers and binge listens to on a walk. A YouTube video that appears in search results for a woman who has never heard of you before. A training that you pre-record once and then you send it out again and again and again to new followers who find you on social media, or to new subscribers who join your email list, to women who are just discovering your world and need to understand what you're about. This is what I mean by leveraged content. And the difference between building a business on disposable content versus leveraged content is the difference between running faster just to stay in the exact same place and building something that genuinely moves forward even when you're not pushing it. So let me paint a picture for you, because I think this is easier to understand when you can really see clearly. Imagine you record one long form piece of content, a podcast episode, for example, or a YouTube video, or some kind of detailed masterclass, a workshop, a webinar. That single piece of content becomes the engine behind everything else. From it, you pull 2 or 3 short posts that you can share on Instagram or LinkedIn. You write an email to your list that goes deeper on one of the themes within that masterclass, and you nurture the relationship there. You could take a clip from the recording and repurpose it as a reel, or you can pull the transcript out, the words from it, and turn it into a text carousel that's going to stop somebody's scroll. One piece of content, multiple touch points, all of it working together to bring the right woman into your world, build her trust in you, and gently guide her towards your offer. And here's the part that makes it genuinely different. That original piece of content, that long form piece at the center of it all, it doesn't stop working when this week ends. It keeps getting found. It keeps doing its job. It keeps bringing new women into your world long after you've moved on to recording the next one. That is a content ecosystem. And once it's built, it works in a way that a feed of daily posts simply cannot compete with. So I want to address something here because I know what some of you might be thinking at this stage. That sounds great for someone who's further along, someone who has more time, more resources, doesn't have a full-time job, doesn't have children, they're more confident on camera. It's not for me, it's not yet. And I understand why it feels that way because I felt exactly the same way when I started. When I launched my podcast, I started my Instagram page at the exact same time, which meant I was beginning both of them from scratch, with absolutely no audience and no guarantee that anyone was going to listen. And I knew at that time that I wasn't going to grow quickly by just sitting behind my laptop, beavering away, hoping that people would find me. I was going to have to give people a reason to trust me, to actually show them who I was and what I stood for. And the way I did that was by just being honest. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The episodes where I didn't have it all figured out. The moments where I got it wrong. The imperfections and the messiness of building something in real time. And that is genuinely what resonated most with people. Not the polished version of me, the human version. Because we are all only human and people trust humans far more than they trust highlight reels. So you don't need to wait until you're further along or more confident or more ready. You just need to start with one piece of content that is genuinely, honestly you, and let that be enough for today. I want you to leave this episode with one question sitting in your mind. If the content that you're creating right now disappeared tomorrow, like all of it, what would still be working for you? Because the answer to that question tells you a lot about where your energy has been going and where it might be better placed going forward. You've so much knowledge and experience and genuine desire to help the women that you're here to serve. I know that. And you deserve a content strategy that honours that. One that takes what you know and lets it work for longer than 24 hours. That is what leveraged content makes possible. And in some of the episodes ahead, we're going to go even deeper into how the full freedom-focused model works. Because content is just one part of it. For now, though, just sit with that question and start noticing the content in your world that seems to keep working long after it was made. Because that's the content that's worth learning from.